Every visual in this game, the characters, the animations, the background, the UI, and even the logo was made in PixelLab. No templates, no pre-made assets, just one locked style and everything animated with text. This is a music synced game inspired by Plants vs. Zombies. The combat is on beat. So enemies attack on the beat, defenders attack on the beat, and instead of everything being about cooldowns and raw DPS, the core loop is about timing. You're playing around the rhythm. So this is how I started. Just a grid, a few static characters, and the core mechanics. I was slowly recreating the basics of Plants vs. Zombies, placing units on a grid, but syncing attacks to a metronome. Visually, it was extremely bare bones, like 5 static characters, no animations, no real identity at all. But mechanically, it kind of worked. And once the foundation was there, that's when I stopped adding features and focused on rebuilding the visuals properly. That's where PixelLab came in. The main tool I used was create images in the same style. So I started with a single reference image, which I made with the create small to large image tool, and used it as the visual anchor for everything. So new enemies, different poses, different actions, same look, no visual drift at all. That one decision made it possible to build a full set of game assets that actually feel like they belong together. The characters in this game aren't standard sprites, they don't fit clean animation templates, and that's intentional. So instead of forcing them into presets, I generated each character and pose inside the same style system. Each enemy has a different role mechanically, but visually, they all feel like part of the same world. For animation, I relied entirely on animate with text. So instead of drawing frames, I described emotions. So basically, this guy is throwing cassette tapes, and this woman is making holograms of herself, which I think is pretty cool. And then we got this guy, he's roller skating. So we don't really have a template for that. Once the characters were done, everything else followed the same system, so UI elements followed the same visual rules. I was going for like a graffiti and like paint splashes all over the place type vibe, and I ended up coming up with this subway station, which I think is pretty cool. And then my buddy George from the PixelLab Discord server, you guys should check it out by the way, he helped me make the new background by using the new InPaint tool, since the image is pretty big in comparison to the characters. Leave a W George down in the comments. So when I was done with all the visuals, all I had to do was bring everything into the engine. So on the technical side, the game is built in Phaser 3. It's lightweight, flexible, and works really well for grid-based games like this. To speed things up, I used an AI-assisted IDE. Specifically, I was using Anti-Gravity by Google, which is basically the same idea as Cursor, Windsurf, or any modern IDE with a coding agent built in. I paired that with Claude Opus for most of the logic. That said, the exact setup doesn't really matter. You can use any IDE you're comfortable with, and whichever coding model fits your workflow. Models like Codex by OpenAI, Gemini by Google, or Claude by Anthropic are all solid choices. The IDE helps you move faster in code, but PixelLab is what made the game look like a game. This is part 1. This was all about building the visual foundation, the style, the characters, and the animations. Next time, I can push this much further. New enemies, new maps, new mechanics, more complex music-driven interactions. If you want to see part 2, let me know down in the comments and tell me what you want me to build next.